Welcome back, everybody. We're launching a new podcast we're going to call First Ring Daily. And
Yeah, and it's going to come out once every 2 weeks.
yeah, that's a healthy schedule, I think. It's been a while. I turned the computer on, desktop booted just fine. I tried to turn on the Surface Book 2 here, and I could not get it to come back to life. It's currently just doing things, so I had to use this one to get an image up on the screen because
Can I guess what that image is?
yeah.
Is that the wheel stand for the new Mac Pro?
If it was like $499, that would be about
It looked like about $1,000 worth of hardware there.
I'm sure. So this is a historical device used with Morse code and a telegraph, and yeah, this is
Even better. Even better.
yeah. So if anybody didn't catch this, I think this was a bit of genius, and I'm using that term as a pun, sort of. But Genius.com, which is known for rap lyrics and whatever music annotation and all that stuff, has been complaining for years that Google has been stealing their stuff, which is very ironic because Genius.com used to steal lyrics from other sites. But aside from the point and the fact that they now license it, anyways, Google's stealing their stuff. And what they did was,
Genius.com is what kind of music?
so they do music lyrics.
For what kind of music?
I think all types, and then you can
I see.
annotate it and whatever. But
Yep.
the basis is that if you want to find out the lyrics of a song, you can go to genius.com and figure it out. And so if you search for music lyrics and you type in I don't know, Burning Ring of Fire, and you're trying to figure out who sings it or whatever, it'll come up with the lyrics, Johnny Cash and all that stuff. And Genius has been saying, hey, Google's stealing this from us. And Google was saying, no, we don't. We're not actually stealing it. So what they did was they turned the apostrophes in all of the lyrics to write out Morse code. So there's straight apostrophes and there's also curly ones. And what they did was they created Morse code with those apostrophes that said red-handed. And so every time Google would surface the stuff with the apostrophes, they knew that they were stealing it from Genius. And yeah,
That's beautiful.
it's really one of those things you look at that and you're like, wow, that's pretty
It
smart.
is genius,
You
one
even
might say.
So I don't know what's going to come out of this, but there's obviously the greater implications of Google getting the scrutiny from the governments around the world. And this
I mean, honestly, though, this is the first time Google's ever stolen any content from
yeah.
anyone and just put it on their site. So
Yeah.
what's the big deal? I
yeah,
mean,
never happens.
Yeah.
Never uses people's.
Thank God they're not from China, am I right?
Yo, hey. So we'll see if anything comes out of this. I suspect it's just going to be a dog pile of things onto Google, and they're just going to be on the receiving end of some regulation of some sort from many different agencies
Oh, yeah.
around the globe.
All these companies are going down. It's beautiful.
Yeah, except Microsoft. They're just kind of
Microsoft.
they're just sitting there saying, "Hey, don't call us."
See, I've been making fun of this Kumbaya stuff for a couple of years, but you know what? It's going to pay off.
Yeah. I mean, they are that open source thing that they kind of got forced into. You could say it was a real strategic business move, or you could also say they had to do it because of the way the market was moving underneath them. But at the end of the day, they're just kind of like, "Hey, we're just a platform. Bring your own stuff and do whatever." And
Also, we love everyone. We'll
yeah.
partner with anyone. We'll sell anyone's software. We'll adopt anyone's software. We'll do whatever you want.
Yeah, there was actually a somewhat, at least to me, interesting thing. Microsoft, I think, is their Azure security thing, was putting out tweets saying hey, you need to patch your Linux VMs and listing the certain issue and how to patch it, which doesn't sound all that harmless today, but 10 years ago, Microsoft telling you to patch your Linux VMs, that was unheard of.
This world it's like Bizarro World. It's an alternate universe. It's a planet on the other side of the sun in the same trajectory as Earth that we can't see because it's on the other side of the sun.
Yeah, I'd believe in that, and if that's the one where Twitter isn't, I will happily go there.
Yes, it's the world where MySpace took off for some reason. Yahoo is still an internet powerhouse. We're all using Internet Explorer.
Or even Netscape. We're all buying our browsers.
Right.
Yeah, nobody even thinks about buying a browser anymore. Maybe that's a new model. We should spin up a premium browser because that would go over.
Every time someone buys Chrome OS, they're buying a browser. Bam. Irony alert.
A little bit. If you've been holding off using To Do because you doesn't have a Mac app, all your wildest dreams have come true.
It's a sad statement on a Monday that's our second story.
There's not a whole lot going on. We took some really good weeks off when a lot of good things were happening because we were traveling. And now
Yeah.
it's Monday morning, and there's
I am so shell shocked. I've basically been on the road for 6 weeks straight.
Yep.
You know, I'm just fortunately I'll be home for a month, so that's going to be nice.
Yeah, that'll be nice for me too. Like I woke up and sat down on my computer. I'm like, wow, I had not turned on my desktop upstairs, I think in 13 days.
Yeah. I just did this morning. I took out some laptops because I have all these review laptops and I got to get going on that stuff too. But I have my own laptops that haven't been opened in a while, and it was rather comical watching them try to install all the updates that were required. But
Well, this morning when I went to turn my desktop on, my wife was like, "Why did you say you hope it turns on?" I'm like, "Well, you're not familiar with Windows, are you?"
I've used the system before.
It's
Yeah. It's like the Millennium Falcon. You kind of bang it in the right place and maybe it comes on.
I only laugh because it's completely accurate. You never know what is actually going to happen. So for those who missed it, there's a bunch of content. Paul actually did a really good interview with Tony Redmond that is the leading video from our Shift Happens stuff about talking about just the growth of teams and Outlook replacements and all that good stuff. We interviewed Jeff Tieper, a bunch of other people.
He was great, right? I thought he was really cool.
Yeah, Jeff was wide.
Good guy.
Yeah, he's a lot more fun, as are most executives, when the PR miners aren't sitting there throwing popcorn at you.
I think there might have been some concern, like we were going to sabotage this guy or something.
Yeah.
But I will say this: it's kind of a weird thing. You and I discussed this, and Mary Jo was in on this discussion. And this is not Microsoft specific, but obviously we deal with Microsoft a lot. You know, over the years, like when you enter the industry, especially, you kind of assume that everyone's an expert. When you talk to executives at a company who run a certain product or whatever it is, the assumption is they know everything about that product, you know. And then you have these disappointing moments along the way where you realize, man, the person I'm talking to has no idea what they're talking about. And in some alarming cases, and I'm not going to name any names here, but you could tell they literally didn't know very much about the product they directly represented. And that, you know, is kind of alarming. Jeff Tieper is not that guy. This guy speaks fluently and quickly about any topic you want to talk about, not just his stuff, but throughout the company. I found him to be just a wonderful guy and a smart guy and, very knowledgeable. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I mean, you said it pretty well. I was going to drag on about it, but you hit it pretty eloquently that he knows what he's talking about. And the thing is when he gets off course of things that maybe aren't directly under him, he's still pretty knowledgeable about them.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's not just, look, he's part of an organization that is now under Microsoft 365. He has to deal with the folks from Windows and probably somewhat with the management side of the company, whatever it is. But he seems to have a very broad knowledge of the company and how everything kind of works together. And I should point out, too, he literally runs the part of the company that I think is the most complex because it was the first to transition to the cloud. It issues updates every single month across an incredible and bizarre range of products and services, meaning Office 365. They're the poster child for getting that stuff right. And they stand in sharp contrast, frankly, to Windows, which doesn't update as often or as in not just the volume, but just this is called the volume. The volume of updates just are not there. It's just not the same thing. And Windows is not doing as well. I mean, it's very interesting.
Yep. And he did not explicitly say anything for the PR people who might be watching about future products and roadmaps and all that stuff. But he did give some hints about things coming to Teams and updates to Office apps on the web and some other minor things. But yeah, he gave a great keynote. We had a pretty good health of tech thing that will be, we're going to publish it. We're waiting on some.
Oh, we are? Okay.
I believe so. I believe that's the intent. Because we're waiting on some B-roll footage that came in to help kind of.
Oh, then everyone will get to see my death threat against Mark Benioff, which was not quite what I was shooting for. But
the funny thing was, and I can't remember the exact phrase, but we're doing a lunch session. It lasted an hour long. I would say that maybe 75 people in there, 100 people. I don't know. So it was a decent crowd.
No, it was definitely hundreds of people.
Yeah. So and it's pretty quiet. Like we're talking and all this stuff. And Paul made a comment about Windows or something, and the whole audience just groaned. And then it's like,
I can tell you exactly what it was. We were talking about future Windows. We were talking about Light OS, and we did this kind of shticky thing where Tina or somebody had gotten us those oven mitts, hot, red for hot and green for not hot, whatever. And with great reluctance, we moved into our role as prop comic. And
he's not wrong, folks.
Yeah, and at the end of each section, we kind of, we individually voted whether or not we thought this thing was hot or not. And I mean, look, I want this thing to succeed. I'm interested in it. I will use it. I mean, whatever. But Microsoft has failed twice now trying to make Windows simpler, and I'm not really sure that's the right approach to go. And so whether this thing is a Chrome OS type system, whatever it was. So I was the one who voted not on this future Windows thing, whatever it's called, Light OS. And that's when they groaned. And I said, seriously, this is when you're going to turn on me? This thing that no one knows anything about. This is the moment,
Yep. Yeah, it was a good thing to keep in mind. If you do end up watching this, by the way, the audience there is totally different than probably anybody listening to this. I mean, these are digital transformation people that are working in the trenches.
That's right. And government heavy, probably. Yes. We were in Washington, D.C. A big part of AvePoint's business is government contracted. I mean, and also kind of a friendly home crowd for the Microsoft fan, right? Yeah. So I think some of them were a little surprised at how critical we could be here and there. I mean, honestly, overall, if you were to add it all up, I think the hots outweighed the nots by, some huge margin. I mean, like 40-5 or something. I mean, it was, or whatever the numbers are. But, I mean, it was interesting. I mean, it was kind of an interesting thing. But I mean, look, Microsoft is in a good place today. I mean, obviously, we are mostly very complimentary. And the part of the business that those guys cover, Office 365 / Microsoft 365, like I said, is the poster child for the future of Microsoft. So it's all good news, I think. Yeah. I guess, there are dissenting opinions, unless you mark Benioff.
Yeah, we got a lot of good feedback on it. So I think that's the format going forward. And we'll be coming to a keynote thing near you at some point.
Well, so we've done 2 of these things, right? Yep. I mean, we're not going to do them every quarter necessarily, but it stands to reason. We have Ignite coming up. That might be a time to do it.
That would be the next logical.
Yeah, or we're going to be in New York in October for a Microsoft hardware event, I'm sure. Yeah. And we can go to New York anytime. So maybe sometime in the fall, we'll see. But I like the idea of doing it in different places.
So do I.
So we did the first one in New York. We did the second one in D.C. Doing the third one in Orlando would make tons of sense. It'd be kind of cool.
Or like
Paris,
Hawaii,
or Hawaii, yes, yeah. What are you doing in December?
Yeah, exactly. Like the closer to winter we get, the further south we should be going.
I agree.
So anyone from, I don't know, South America has any great places to recommend that we can?
So, yes, please. Argentina is interesting to me. Colombia.
Yeah. Yep. Cancun, Mexico. I could weasel that one in there, I think. So cool. There's literally nothing else going on a Monday morning.
Yeah, just one thing I should mention is, I'm doing this programming Windows series.
Oh, yeah. This is really interesting, actually.
And I have become rather obsessed by this topic, Brad. It's kind of messed up. And so I have started, it's funny, like I started an article that was going to be the next one, but then it blew up into too much stuff, and I realized I needed to do another backgrounder. So I will have, I was just going to publish it, and the image I used was all screwed up, so I have to fix that. So after we record the show, probably by the time you see the show, I will have the next part up. It's a straight up history part, because I realized in writing about Win16, which is the name applied later on to the original Windows API, that I needed to explain why Windows even existed. Yeah. So I went back and wrote a short piece about the prehistory of that, the GUIs and mouse stuff and whatever. But I'm going to do it like that. This is going to be a big series. Like, aside from any interviews, which I've not scheduled even one of yet. I mean, I keep expanding. I have a list I'm making. It's kind of an index or a table of contents or whatever. Of like topics, and as I go, I'm like, I gotta do this, So I'm gonna do a fun one called just Hello World, and it's gonna be the like how a Hello World program looked on straight C and then straight through like Windows API, Win32, C++ with MFC, .NET, like all the way to to Windows 8, and how that changed over time, like a super simple program kind of thing, just like kind of a one up, kind of a fun mile high view of source code. I don't know. So
are you wearing glasses and like pushing them up frequently when you're writing this?
I've been buying books.
Yeah.
Like back in the day, you'd buy these gigantic programming tomes for like $45 or $60, depending on the year. And you'd have, they'd line your wall like a future Tinder for the fire to come or whatever. And I got rid of all that stuff. And but honestly, these things are not available electronically because they're rolled out of print, books. So I've been getting all these huge packages coming to the house. My mail woman, we were away, but she asked my daughter, she's like, what? She's like, is your father buying, what did she say? Not lead bricks, gold bricks or something. Mm-hmm. She's like, my daughter has no idea, but so when I got home from this trip, she's like, what is in these packages? And I'm like, they're books. Mm. She's like, books? Like, what are books?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, when you get up into Windows 7 and you need a Windows 7 secrets book, I can help you out with that.
Windows 7 Secrets. Was I part of a Windows 7 Secrets? Yeah, I wrote that.
yeah. August 31. I actually Googled it right where you're doing that. August 31, 2009 was when that was published.
Yeah, that was over 1,000 pages. That was the book. We were in the Netherlands, and I was just telling the story there when I was there. The people in the Netherlands are so blunt. I had gone to the Windows 7 launch in the Netherlands that October. And I spoke at the event with the guy from Wartel, Danny Berlage, and then I signed copies of the books after the talk. And so people are all waiting around for me to sign the book. And this one guy comes up and he says, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. And he says, if Windows 7 is so easy to use, why is your book over 1,000 pages long? So excellent. And I told him that I padded it with screenshots.
Yep. Oh, man. Fun times. You got anything else for this? I don't know what the weather's like there. It's been raining since last January here.
I know. This is the rainiest. It's never been this rainy in my entire life. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah, it just rains and rains and rains. And it doesn't just rain. It like downpour rains. Yeah. Like it's the once-a-year storm has happened a dozen times this year.
Yep.
Yeah, very strange.
Yep. With that, folks, we're going to wrap it up today. We should be back on a quasi-semi-regulated schedule, hopefully, something like that. We'll catch you right back here next time.